Today, can Christian parents train their kids to know and respect God's design of sexuality in a world that has rejected it? Yes, we can. But one problem we need to talk to our kids about is the lure and bondage of pornography. Statistics reveal that 93% of boys and 63% of girls report being exposed to internet pornography before the age of 18, with the average age of first exposure being 12 years old. The CEO of Common Sense said, "I was pretty shocked to know that online pornography is everywhere, and kids are accessing it early. In many ways, our culture is feeding our kids damaging misinformation about sexuality, gender identity, and human biology, even in 40% of our schools. As a Christian parent, it's up to us to help our children understand God's truth about these essential concepts in the face of the candy-coated lies that are saturating today's world." My guests who will help guide us through the damaging information about sexuality are Hillary Morgan Ferrer, who has a master's degree in biology and specializes in scientific apologetics, dealing with doubt and identifying causes and solutions for youth leaving the church. Also, Amy Davison, a former Air Force veteran turned writer who holds a Bachelor of Science degree in religion from Liberty University and an MA in Christian apologetics from Southwestern Baptist Theological Seminary. And third, Lindsay Mendenwald, who has a master's degree in ethics and apologetics from Denver Seminary, plus a master's degree in public administration and an earned law degree, and is an adjunct professor at Northwestern College in Iowa. We invite you to join us for this edition of The John Ankerberg Show. I'm John Ankerberg, and I'm glad that you're joining us today. And our topic is, what happens to your body when you watch pornography? Do you know what the figures are saying? Well, I got 3 experts that are saying that it can hurt you. And we're going to give you that. But let me give you the numbers that shocked me. And these are the low numbers. These are the numbers from 2017 of people in America that are watching porn. First number that I noticed was in 2019, the world's largest porn conglomerate reported 42 billion visits. 42 billion visits. Now think how many people we got in our country. The statistics say the entire Earth's population's times 6, just from our country, visited their site. That's how many Americans watched it in that year. That was 2019. It's much more now. Another statistic is the amount of new content added to the porn sites is enough to watch porn all day, every day, for guess what? For 165 years. That's being added every day. Not only that, but remember, this is just one porn site that we're quoting from in 1 year. That doesn't include the approximately 26 million other sites that exist. Put their numbers with it. Let me give you one more. Pornography, by the numbers, states that marital infidelity rates have risen more than 300% because of people watching pornography. Now, ladies, I want to talk about our topic and relate this back to the fact we're talking about how kids are influenced by the things that are in our culture that they're watching. Kids are watching pornography as well. And some people say, how young are kids watching pornography? Hillary, answer that question.
Well, when we were first looking at it, I think the average age of even the violent pornography was 8. I would say that's gone down. Even me personally, looking at things on Facebook where I'll click on something where they take you to a site that's supposedly for home redecoration. And I've had multiple times where that's taking me to a porn site instead. In fact, there are even porn sites that will look at what is going on in the curriculum for that school district. What are kids having to research, whether or not, that's something from the American Revolution or whatever, and they will create porn sites that mimic actual sites. so that the kids are stumbling upon this in their researching for something like American history.
Yeah, or another person that I read said, if you want to know when your kid's going to watch porn and how young they'll be, is when did you give them a smartphone?
Yep.
If you gave it to them when they were 5 because they wanted to, talk to their friends and so on, you also opened the door for them to look at pornography, and they're doing it. So 5 years of age and up. Now, we're going to talk about what happens to your body. You guys, you got masters in science degree, you got your PhD, and I'm just simply saying, you have known about what happens in the mind when you're looking at pornography. Hillary, start me off.
Yeah, so there's 3 chemicals that are released during orgasm. That's going to be oxytocin, vasopressin, and dopamine. So dopamine is going to be your basic pleasure chemical. And what happens is you get such a huge flood of dopamine when you're watching pornography that your body doesn't even know what to do with it. I compare it to, say that sometimes if you're watching TV and it's a really, really loud scene, if it's too loud, you actually have to turn it down. When you get that much dopamine, your body says, ooh, we don't need all these receptors. So it actually takes away some of the receptors.
It starts to actually get rid of receptors.
Yes.
Which means that if you continue to watch pornography, you're not getting the same thrill because you haven't got enough receptors to get that same thrill, and now your mind has actually gotten rid of some of those receptors, so you need more and more and more to get the same thrill that you had when you had the receptors.
This is the basic addiction that we see that's happening with pornography. All addictions are based on needing an ever-present amount of whatever you're addicted to in order to get the same amount of pleasure. And so we don't see that just in the amount of pornography that's being viewed. We see that in the type of pornography, that what used to be something maybe like just a normal male-female sex, well, now you need to make that more and more deviant, and then it becomes more and more violent in order to get that same flood of chemicals in the brain, and that's where we see violence starting to increase among porn users.
Yeah. I have a figure here that I actually looked up. By the time our boys reach 5th grade, 90% of them will then exposed to porn.
Yeah.
So you think about that, mom and dad, that you're watching, and you say, my kid's not watching porn. How do you know that? Do you have a filter? Do you have one of those little gadgets that you can put on their phone that you can see what they're looking at? In our families and in my cousins, my nieces and nephews, they've put it on their kids' phones. Why? Because it's prevalent at school, pornography. It is so prevalent that kids in class are actually sending pictures of what they like to their friends to take a look at it. So they're actually sending porn back and forth. Now you say, is that only among the kids? No. There's a business report that shows that the average business person that works in America looks at porn while they're at work 18 minutes a day. And if you take all of those people that are just watching for 18 minutes, let's say they're making $26 an hour. Some people have studied and said, okay, you got 26, you take 18% away from, how much money are we losing in America? It's like $326 billion that we're losing because people are looking at just 18 minutes of pornography. And I'm saying there's some people that are doing a lot more. You go into some of the public libraries and you'll see kids in the back that are swapping pictures with their friends. They're not looking at books, they're looking at the pornography. And so you've got that one chemical in the brain. Give me another chemical.
So oxytocin is what causes bonding. So like all moms know that when you first hold your baby, and especially during breastfeeding, you release oxytocin. Or if you just have someone that you give a 20-second hug to, my husband and I kind of joke that we will count when we give each other hugs to make sure we get that full 20 seconds, because that's when the oxytocin is released, that it makes you feel bonded to the other person. Now, all of these are released, again, during orgasm, and your body will actually crave that which it received the oxytocin for. And so when you're having oxytocin released for either different partners that you don't know on a screen, you're not only bonding to this idea of a 2-dimensional image instead of a 3-dimensional person that's there in the flesh and blood, but you're also being primed to crave novelty, newness. And so you've got the oxytocin, you've got the vasopressin, you've got the dopamine, all working together in this really, I just want to point out what an amazing design it is that God did this to bond husband and wife together. But when you start to separate it, as Amy pointed out in one of the chapters, there's some people who lament the fact that they can't, it seems horrible to them to be with the same person for the rest of their life. And you said about how, what they're really lamenting.
Yeah, let me slow it down, then I want you to drop in here because I'm going back to your own book. And that is, I love the illustration used about you love your computer, but you love your computer different than you love your husband. But here's the deal, is if you've got these chemicals that are working on your mind and you have an orgasm as a result of looking at the porn, that registers in your mind, and where did you get it? You got it from either the TV or from your smartphone or your computer. Somewhere you got them, and you had an orgasm. Guys had a climax, and the fact is, where did they get it? You bond with where you had that orgasm or you had that climax. You bond with the fact of where it came from. You're not bonding with a person, you're bonding with a TV set, a two-dimensional deal here. And what happens is, because you're bonding with that TV set or with pictures on your computer or on your phone, you're not bonding with another person. And if you are married to another person, you are starting to bond more with a machine than you are personally with your wife or your husband.
And that impacts then the marital bedroom, right?
Yeah.
That's exactly
Because we want to be only bonded with our spouse, but once we bring porn into the picture, now our spouse is not the only person who is stimulating us and making us excited. And then it gets more and more and more, and all of a sudden we can't have sex with our spouse without pornography being present.
There's even a guy over in Japan who identifies as something called fictosexual, that he legally married an avatar of, I think it was kind of like an anime girl, that this is who his legal wife is, because I believe that he, a lot of anime has a lot of pornographic themes in it, that is who he bonded to so many times, that is who he says, I am officially, my sexual orientation is towards fictional characters. And so he's called fictosexual, and he wasn't treated as like, well, this is kind of weird. He was given someone paid for him to get a law degree, and he now travels around the country and around different countries speaking on fictosexual as a sexual identity.
Yeah, but not only do these chemicals do this to your brain, it wires your brain to be attached to the TV set and the pictures that you see there, or to your phone or your computer or wherever you're getting it. You start to bond with that, and you're starting to knock off your own receptors in your head because you're overloading. So you need a different kind of porn to actually stimulate and give you the same thrill. And you were talking a while ago about violence, and I want to pursue that.
Yeah.
Talk about how violence is going up because of porn.
Yeah, so the place that kind of registers violence and sexuality are really close in the brain together. And so turning on one for like violence can actually turn on the other for sexuality. And what they're showing is, some people say, oh, well, using this violence within porn is going to make it so someone can basically get their kicks without doing it in the real world. But what someone starts wanting to do after they have primed themselves in order to experience this violence in pornography is they want to enact what they've seen. It's very much a monkey see, monkey do. You want to do what you've already seen portrayed. And a lot of guys have a hard time being able to recognize if a woman's not even comfortable. They stop seeing the woman as an actual person who's responding, because all of these pornography sites show the woman as not only agreeing to, consenting to, but enjoying the act of violence against her. And we're going to talk about in one of the other segments about how this is even affecting our girls wanting to be girls, that the younger that girls are exposed to this kind of pornography, the less they even want to identify as a girl, because the concept in their mind of even having sex as a girl is terrifying because of what they see the men doing to women in these pornography sites, and her being treated as she enjoys it.
Let's talk about the fact that guys that have grown up watching porn and they get married and they swear, I'm going to live with you the rest of my life, and you've got all of me. Really, they're already addicted to a two-figure type thing, watching the pictures on TV or on their computer or their phone, and they have more experience with that machine than they do with their wives. So there's more personality over here than there is over here. And so a lot of them try to say, well, one of the ways to fix that is let's bring my wife into this and let's have her watch the porn with me. So you've got husband and wife sitting there, and what happens?
A lot of times you'll have a man that is not able to get an erection without the pornography. He can't even look at a naked woman in real life, aka his wife, and become sexually aroused. And so he has to have this pornography prime the pump before he can even be intimate with his wife.
Yeah. So you wonder why we see so many ED commercials on television, and it may be because we've got so many people watching porn that they can't get an erection. And how does it affect the women?
Oh golly, the women are being trained to, this is what I need to do. Talk about the groom to consume and groom to perform.
Yeah, so this grooming to consume pornography starts in boys and girls differently, but from a very young age. So girls are groomed to objectify, and it starts around the age of 5. What you'll notice, moms or dads, if you walk down the children's toy aisle, after children are about the age of 5, all of the dolls that are being branded as fashion dolls, they all dress very provocatively. I mean, we're talking mini skirts, crop tops, the fishnet stockings.
That's how we all walk around every day.
Yeah, so we're talking brats.
Yeah. Hold on for a minute. Mom and Dad, I want you to listen to what they're saying, because what they're going to talk about, you've already seen it in the store. You've already seen it in the magazines. You've already seen it in television commercials, what they're going to talk about right now. See if I'm right. Keep going.
Yeah, and what we want parents to understand, as it's been said many times before, Satan cannot create, he can only corrupt. So what's he corrupting is this idea of the beauty of womanhood. So now womanhood is now being warped into, you have to be hot, you have to be sexy. And that's what we're seeing in these fashion dolls that are being given to girls under the guise of, oh, this is just fashion. And so girls between the ages of 6 to 9 were able to pick out that women who dressed with, you know, the crop tops with everything hanging out, the booty shorts, the, you know, glamorous makeup, those girls were going to be most popular in school, and that's who they wanted to be when they grew up. So we're talking tail end of kindergarten to beginning of 3rd grade, these little girls recognized, if I dress sexy, people are going to like me more and I'm going to be popular.
Yeah, let's talk about how the girls, little girls, wanting to be popular with their classmates, are sending porn pictures of themselves to their classmates. Why are they doing that?
They're doing that as a way to compete within culture. So I'm going to sound dated here, but back in our day, like our social groups were the 20 kids in our classroom and the 4 kids on our block. That's it. Now, because of social media, Gen Z and Gen Alpha have never known a day of their life without social media. And what social media has done is it is now having these kids compete for relevance and popularity against millions, against the world. And the only way to make yourself different, to get the likes and the followers, is to post more and more illicit photos. In fact, studies have found that children are more likely to post an illicit photo online than share their faith, because the illicit photo will get likes and follows, and sharing their faith will get them unfriended. And most kids, what they want to be when they grow up are influencers. And how do you be an influencer? You have to have a product that is most widely attractive to the largest audience, and you cannot do that with the gospel, but you can do that with your body.
Lindsay, I want to come to you, and I want to backtrack. First of all, only God can create. And God created these chemicals in our mind, and He gave us the moral command, male and female, and they're to become one flesh when they get married. And these chemicals are there to bond those two, to have an intimate, fun, reliable, all the good words, relationship. The devil has messed that up by inventing porn, and people have given up on, well, they didn't know it. They're just dumb about this. They haven't read God's word. They don't know that God says, don't get into that area. Stay over here, and if you do, you're going to have a wonderful married life, all of your life, right to the time you die. But if you don't, you're going to mess up this personal relationship here, and you're going to have depression, you're going to want violent sex, you're going to have receptors that are going to die in your own mind. All kinds of bad things are going to happen over here. Comment on that.
One of the things I want to remind people is that married people can have great, fun sex. We're not talking like we can't have wonderful sex. In fact, I would say that married couples probably have the best sex. Christian married couples statistically are having more sex, and we're enjoying it.
More fulfilling. I think
Yeah.
fulfilling would be the key word, because when you're downing something that's fake, it's never going to be fulfilling.
Right, and that's where the worldview picture comes in, is how are we fulfilled human beings? And so sex should be fun. It should be enjoyable. It should be, I can't wait to get home and be with my spouse. Porn is killing the vibe. It's selling this story that it's not killing the vibe, that it is the vibe.
Yeah.
But it is actually killing our mojos. We're no longer excited about being with our spouses because we're attracted in many times. This is true too, that we're finding porn is fake. They're using AI because humans can't do the things that computers can do. And AI generated images are now replacing human beings. And people are attracted to fake images now instead of their spouses, and it's so sad.
And the percentage of kids where you ask them, do you think what you see portrayed in porn is real? Most of them will say yes.
60% of boys,
that think that that's the real thing.
And they can't wait for it to happen to them. That's what
You
they say.
talked about a Friends episode in
Yes.
the book. What happened in that?
So we had that Friends episode where they accidentally got porn, and then it's like after a couple days just watching it nonstop, they're just shocked. The pizza delivery girl didn't want to come and have sex, and the bank teller just took their money, and this secular show said, maybe we need to stop watching porn, because they realized that it completely warped what their expectation of normal human interaction should be.
Okay, two things. We've got 2 minutes and 30 seconds left, okay? And that is that, first of all, God gave these chemicals in our mind and gave us the bodies that we have and set up this whole thing of sex for an intimate relationship for your entire life. And Satan has ruined it by bringing in porn. And where I'm going is, the next thing is, let's say that we're talking to the majority of people that have ruined that personal relationship. How can God help them to restore that relationship? What do they need to do?
So one of the things that we need to praise God for is something called neuroplasticity. Neuroplasticity means that you can actually change what's going on in your brain. As with any addiction, that the less you feed it, the less your brain is going to be craving it. And so you can actually rewire your brain in some ways. There's certain things that will be permanent, and especially if kids are being exposed to this when they're really young, but there are ways that we can rewire our brain. In fact, there's even some non-Christian groups out there, groups of men who are recognizing this erectile dysfunction problem and saying we need to go, at least 30 days without porn so that we can actually rewire our brains. So even though there is always going to be some kind of lasting damage, God has created the body and the brain to be able to heal, that his healing hand not only works in the natural realm, but it works in the supernatural realm as well.
Folks, we're just getting started. It's in this book. We're offering it, Mama Bear Apologetics Guide to Sexuality. You can find about all these chemicals and what it does to the body and how God can also help you get out of an addiction, all right? It's right here, and we're going to talk about that in a minute. Next week, we're going to go to the genderbread person. This is what they're starting your kid at kindergarten. Some of your kids can't even read at kindergarten. So how do they start this new world view? How do they start teaching them that? We're going to show you, and you'll see for yourself that this starts right at kindergarten. This is why parents, you've got to talk to your kids about sex and their relationship with the Lord even before they get to that spot, because if you don't, the school's going to do it. And you don't want that to happen. Thanks for joining us this week, and I hope that you'll join us again next week. But stay tuned, I got a personal word for you in just a minute.
Stay tuned. John will be right back.